So yeah, the idea here, team, today is we're gonna record a Felicia tutorial video here. It's been on the list of things to do since the return of the return of the game, since the collection, the release. But rather than like doing all the editing and stuff, I figured I would just make this a stream, then just upload this to YouTube later. So we'll just kind of do this in like a real time sort of tutorial slash live stream fashion here. Speaking of which, I'm gonna go refill my water. I'll be right back, you guys. All right, well, all right, we're back for my one viewer here. Let's dig into it. So, basically, yeah, like I mentioned, we're just gonna keep this super informal here. I got some free time this weekend, so I figured we'll just kind of chop it up. And I did put together just kind of an outline, right? Like, all right, couldn't figure out how to make that go away or get my punctuation correct, but we will just dive into it either way here. So first up, we're talking movement here. Starting from the beginning here, I think like Felicia gets a bad rap. I mean, all right, Felicia gets a bad rap in terms of movement at super jump height. I think I would have to agree with anybody who's saying that that's like not the place that she wants to be. I think it's the right call. But I think kind of taking a step back, overall, Felicia's like just she's a like a pixie, right? Like fast, quick. The ground is kind of where you want to live. More speed than damage, right? So a lot of like your key damage is going to be coming from just a lot of the just the horizontal space, I guess, right? So as mentioned, you got, she's got a decent walk speed. Her dash is like just okay, not really a full screener. In terms of super jump height, again, she's got this thing, the wall cling, which I guess we can kind of dig into a bit more later. And then she's also got, which people don't really talk enough about, she's got this command dash, right? She's got your little sonic ball roll thing here, which serves a couple different purposes. But I think for the purposes of just strictly movement here, it's decent for cross under. A lot of times I'll use it to just kind of close some space. It also triggers like block on the opponent, or like whatever that like feature is called, where it's like I don't know if we can activate it, but like if you're just like whiffing a normal and you're like holding back at full screen, it does trigger that in like a really interesting way, which I've seen just like random people get like tripped up by that, just like in like in terms of just like standing block stun. And so she's got that, and I'd say that's about it. As far as like a super or a double jump, triple jump, she's got nothing like that. The closest thing I'd say again is maybe that. I'd recommend just really only using this for like if you're like trying to heal red life. Yo, what's up, Madro? What's up, Madro in the building, man? So yeah, like using this for maybe like healing some red life, maybe trying to like troll a storm, or maybe like getting storm or cable to with a bar or like a super or something. Doom will a lot of times just like see you there and just be tempted to do like super finger lasers. It's wild shit. So yeah, kind of wrapping up movement here. There's no like double jump that she has. This thing is the closest thing to it. I've randomly gotten like some pretty cool, like almost like tri-jumpy kind of shit, like in the corner. With this, like completely accidentally. But if you do like the wall cling like low enough to the ground, it's like really hard to do. You can get like or like on the way down maybe. Yeah, it's a tricky one. Like that really quickly, I've done like some really cool like over like tri-jumpish kind of shit. Or even just that like off of a knockdown. That's like kind of like if you're really feeling yourself. Because you can get like commando or like the assist to come out from behind, which is kind of really cool there too. You know what I mean? So like, yeah, it's like a weird like when she's on the wall, she like very briefly is as far right as possible. That's way to do a commando too. Be like, well, come on. Maybe not. Maybe it's just rogue. No, I can't do it. Anyway, long story short, the wall cling, it's there. All right, so that's kind of it on movement, right? I mean, again, walking speed is actually not too terrible. Like, I'll do this on, like, incoming just to kind of, like, be slightly threatening. But for the most part, yeah, if you're going to be doing any crazy movement, kind of leave it to normal jump height, poking with normals. She's also got Delta kick in the air, which is, like, just so unsafe and bad. But if you're trying to snipe, like, a last final pixel Sentinel, it's good because it's, like, 2 hits. It'll chip him to death. And most people don't expect that trash from super jump height. So, yeah, it's wild. Normals. Normals. This I feel like is going to be nothing too new, but we'll kind of get into it. I think people are kind of, or Felicia's more known or more notorious for having pretty stubby normals, even though she's like quick. They kind of are just like sort of the length of kind of a fingernail here. I'd say in terms of just like general neutraling, kind of farting around, you can't go really too wrong with the standing. Or like standing short here. It's frustrating because like unlike rogues, like oh my god, like it's not like rogues like epic like standing little like fucking short kick here. It's so good at like its aerial, but the tail doesn't have the same kind of hit properties, which is frustrating. Like it will almost never hit an opponent standing. On top of that, her like medium sometimes will whiff at weird distances. But for the most part, it's a decent little normal. You know, I'm typically running this if I'm getting in. It's better than her standing little kick guy. I guess her short kick. This is what jab. But it's decent though. I think it's also just good for like a nice like if you're just trying to like poke and kind of get in. So it's not bad. In terms of her jumping normal or her heavies, I guess let's start there. Everyone's always like, oh her launcher is so bad. Like her launcher is so bad, which is like, yeah, she's not meant to be at super jump height. She's supposed to be out here, you know, doing ground stuff. So the launcher's not supposed to be. Her aerial game isn't that great anyway, right? You don't really want to be too heavy at super jump height with Felicia because you're not getting that much damage. You're really just trying to smack them back down to normal jump height with some priority. So you really don't want to be, you know, relying too much on like that strong of a what do you call it, like a launcher. At least not in a way that like I think one should be playing Felicia. But I guess I'll kind of probably cover that as we get into it. But she's got that. She's also got this little standing guy. This is decent. It hits 3 times, which is kind of cool. I didn't mean to throw there. It hits 3 times, and then like sometimes it kind of trips folks up. You can kind of mix it with like a quick little cheeky low, which I'll get into. This low is pretty great. I think just the range on it isn't bad. Plus like if you're really good, it's like a you can like this way you can like combo those guys or just like it also has got like a good OTG guy, so really if you're landing that, it's more like that is what you're going for, and then you just get the launcher points anyway that people are complaining about. You would think that like people would roll a lot, but like Felicia's got a couple options to kind of stagger when the roll comes in. So even if folks are kind of getting used to it, also things like commando assist will also negate a lot of rolling I've seen too. But for the most part, it's a decent sweep. I like this sweep. I think it's on par with honestly Rogue and Commandos. Both are also pretty solid sweeps. She's also got this thing, which is kind of like a decent little anti-air. You can do like a super jump into like a combo, but for some reason like the the timing is so strict. Like the timing is needlessly strict for what little damage again that you get at super jump height. So I'm usually more inclined of just like something simple like that, just a little 2-piece. Start building meter. That's the other thing too, I guess. I'll go back to about the launcher. She's got kind of 2 launchers. She's got the slower one. You'll see there is 12 damage and like a little bit slower. Then she's got this slightly faster one that's 14, has a little bit more priority. And it's spammable. So like if you're like really just looking to build meter, this is probably the fastest way you're going to want to build meter if you're Felicia. I call this like my anti-Storm because like if Storm's doing her like ha 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 ha, I'll be like, okay, I'm just gonna be down here giving you a bunch of these. Storm, she gets too close, I'm bopping her back with commando, and now you kind of are struggling with my like annoying whole thing. So yeah, it's a spammable thing, a spammable normal in terms of just building meter. Yeah, this thing is again just like more of a good poke. If anything, it's kind of decent in neutral. I'm starting to see where it's just like a nice like if I could land it. The length on it is so just like awful. But if you land it in like close up like that, it's like not terrible as far as like kind of mixing up into something like a mid low. But I mean, yeah, this isn't like next level rush down or anything, but it's decent. I make do. As far as her like aerial normals, again, kind of same stubby problem. I wish her like jumping heavy thing that was much more like just threatening this jumping punch. The only really kind of good thing about it is like if you're playing like a tall enough character like Sentinel, you can get something like that. Even sometimes with like a Iron Man height kind of thing, you can like still land it, or even like he blocks, you get the assist or something like that sometimes. So it's okay for that, even though I just kind of introed it as kind of like dog crap. But I tend to typically rely on this if I'm going for like a jumping in type of a thing, just because it's like got really decent little priority. Against some characters, it has like yeah. So you can't jump in with it and land it like from full screen. Like that's not a thing you can do. But off of like a wall, like a normal jump wall clean, you can get like kind of get you in there a little bit. And if you know what you're doing, you can kind of convert off of something like that. It's kind of tricky. So it is like a weird like full screener, but only for some reason off of like that thing at like peak wall jump. Which if you got to do all that to land a full screen jump in, you're probably doing something incorrect anyway, or your opponent's doing something incorrect for sure if they're getting clipped by that. But the more you know. I think that's it for normal. Oh wait, I guess yeah. Also for normals, a really solid one which doesn't get enough love from the Felicias I tend to see on the internet is the jumping kick thing. This one here is like a nice 1-2. It hits nicely twice. So not most, but sometimes you'll get folks who will like block the short and get hit by the medium. This thing isn't bad. Her punching jab, it's worse than this, but it does have this like interesting like quality where the medium hits twice. So like that's like short medium in the air. Yeah, like the medium hits twice. It's weird, right? And then like that's the medium kick I'm throwing in there. So it's like so that's an interesting one too, but like on like normal jump it'll hit 3 times on some characters, so you can get like a nice like 3 hits in the air, which like most folks aren't expecting Felicia to hit them 3 times overhead. They're kind of already looking to crouch. So it's like 3 overheads in a row. If they get used to 3 overheads, you can kind of make it 2 or just 1. Maybe it's just like 1 into low or something crazy like that. But yeah, it's an interesting little normal. The medium is particularly. Other than that, she's got a couple that will hit grounded. That guy's one. I didn't mean to do delta kick as always. That's another one. Her standing guy is another one. She's got like 3 or 4 like OTG attacks. You can also just do 2 heavies in a row. Kind of like a little, like almost like BB Hill's got the same like little dark stalkery kind of thing. So I think that's it for normal. All right, team. I was actually doing the post edit here, and got to normals and realized I missed a key normal. So I figured I would come back and walk through that normal here. It's going to be kind of weirdly out of order, but you know the magic of editing, right? So Felicia does have one additional normal that I didn't cover off on in the first draft of the live stream, and it's this little guy. This is like her command normal. It's actually back in her roundhouse kick. It's an interesting normal. I actually really rely on it a lot in terms of just like a string ender. It's like a nice sort of like anti push block in terms of just like the pure range on it. It also has like an interesting kind of like anti-airish properties up close, where it'll like hit airborne opponents, like with the first like knee, like with that first knee, and then usually maybe missing the like the second kick. It's also her most furthest reaching normal. Just wanted to make sure to note that. I know earlier we were talking about the sweep guy here being pretty solid, but the back kick is great, especially in terms of like a scramble, like a situation where, I don't know if I can make it happen here, where like you're doing like those like weird like cross unders with the freaking point character. But point being, like if you get a side switch or just like a long distance poke, Even if you're looking to protect like an assist sometimes too, you'll sometimes see something like that into just like a really quick super, or even like that into the auto combo super too. Both 47 points. As you can imagine, you can kind of DHC out of both of those. So another really, really great normal in her toolkit. So I wanted to make sure that this guy got called out too. It also links really, really nicely to like that. And even like in the corner too, you get a little bit of a 5 guy. So yeah, good normal. Yeah. I feel like I got all the normals covered, right? Normals, yeah. All right. What we got next here? Normals, special moves. Oh, special moves. Do I have an assist thing at some point? Special moves, assist. Okay, I got assist coming up. Yeah, special moves. All right, we'll get into special moves first. I'll start with like her worst special move. I'll start with the worst special moves first here. We'll get those out of the way, right? So, as again, all of her specials, I think 95% of her specials are all like ground based. So again, you're kind of looking to just like figure out how you can get some crumbs in here with just the neutral ground and kind of like a little bit of the neutral air, normal jump height, I guess. And so first up in terms of supers, we will do this dragon punch thing. She's got this like bubble thing. It hits once on the ground for 13, 16. This one does a side switch. Also, fun fact, I'm bad at dragon punches. That one does a side switch. And then that one gives like decent priority in terms of just like wake up. But for the most part, this isn't really anything special. If you ever catch me doing it, it's typically off of like an alpha counter in, because you can like, if I can land it, that's like, there you go. You can like cancel from it into like sand off of an alpha counter, which is like low key really good, but it'd be way easier if it was like that on the alpha counter. But we'll get to it in the assist section. But yeah, so she's got this like dragon punch thing. I wish it was an actual invincible like dragon punch motion of some sort, like had some kind of priority, but the side switch will sometimes confuse people. So really nothing to write home about. I wish the length was even a little bit more threatening here. But anyway, so she's got that. Next up, I probably should have done this one first, is the Delta Kick. So Delta Kick is another dragon punch motion, so you guys can watch me struggle with dragon punches here for the next segment. But for the most part, I think as most folks know, it hits 3 times. If you're right on top of the opponent, you can land all 3 hits for the short. From what I've gathered, the heavy one, if I can land it, there we go. The heavy one you can't really just like combo into, even if you are like right on top of them. You also just, it's not worth it. Like the perk, I'll get to the perks. The perks that are here is like it does give like a nice little knockdown, even though that's rollable. Most people kind of don't really expect Delta Kick. So it has that going for it on the heavy, but then like it's kind of tighter on the short. So it's that. You can also do it in the air. There is no OTG property coming off the air for whatever reason. And the aerial version, I'm pretty sure, is probably just as safe as the ground, as unsafe, which is my next point here, as the ground version. So that's my other thing with it, is that like just in terms of just unsafeness, it's just not good. And like I'm the kind of Felicia that's typically dashing in and trying to dash in and do sand. Or like dash in and do like quick version of the launcher kick, which is like down forward roundhouse, for anyone wondering. So usually if I'm ever doing Delta Kick, it's because I've dashed in and like been trying to do sand, and I've gotten like Delta Kick and I'm like screaming because I'm never trying to do this move ever intentionally under most circumstances. So that's my soapbox on Delta Kick here. Set my guy back to auto. And then, so next up, we'll get into her little projectile here. This is kind of low-key my baby. Sand Splash. I'm a big fan of Sand Splash. She's got 2 versions. The short is 2 hits, 15 points. The heavy is 2 hits, 18 points. It's also a little bit slower than the short. So as far as spammability, this is usually kind of more safer in the neutral, just in case, you need those extra frames to kind of like block a jump in. Or if you need those frames to, catch a jump in with one of these, which I've done a couple of times, where it's like, and then bop, which is kind of hilarious. So yeah, Sand Splash is good for that. A couple other points about the Sand Splash. I guess in the neutral, I think is really good for just like assist punishing if you are on point with Felicia, especially if you have like a Storm that likes to jump away or a Cable that wants to throw a grenade. Maybe you can get in like a Bink and then kind of like block and kind of keep it pushing, right? So it's decent for that. Sometimes too, what I'll do is like catch the point character. The assist is standing there. Catch the assist with also another Sand Splash. It also does a great job too. It's great in the corner, but I'm kind of getting to my corner point. Like in this space here, for whatever reason, where like if you're like opponent is pinned against the corner, you're like kind of spamming commando and just from a really safe distance, just sand splashing. You can kind of lock people in a little bit here, where it's just kind of like you can't get in here, and obviously commando's going to be doing that. I'm going to cover that and just kind of keep it pushing, especially if you're doing the shorter one, which at that point you're just wanting to just spam pressure. And again, it's like most assists like probably aren't going to be catching you from here. Maybe like a Sentinel rocket punch, but even like a Doom rocks you can kind of shut down with commando at this distance, and even like Felicia low key can like probably shut down rocks just because of the way the attack hits. It's kind of like an underground almost, the Sand Splash. So props to Sand Splash. I'm a big fan. A couple other things too, which people don't talk about enough, is you can combo with it pretty decently in the corner. So like off of Sand Splash, that's like 92 without me even mashing. And it's also nice because it's like not as reliant on the OTG, which people love. But it's still pretty good though. Or it actually is really good, I think, just in terms of like overall just kind of effectiveness. Only the heavy combos, the short, you won't get they'll just block, but the heavy is your kind of go-to for those reasons. Other nice things about it is that it does hit OTG. So yeah, decent little projectile. It's tricky to kind of get the hang of, but once you get a flavor for it, you kind of appreciate it for what it is. It's also just really good on jump ins for characters that don't have really good like launchers or like heavies or like landing heavies, or even characters with landing heavies who are really cocky. It's just like a nice like check to bop them. It's good on incoming, bopping them as they land. Yeah, it's kind of quirky, but yeah, found some uses for it. All right, next up we will do Rolling Buckler here. This is probably the most, I think this is the last one. Oh, she's got a command grab I'll touch on real quick. It's unblockable. I almost never use this thing. It's 26 damage. You can't really mash it, even though it looks like you'd be able to kind of do like a joystick kind of thing. But no dice. So next up we have the Rolling Buckler, or Sonic Roll here. We were talking about it earlier in the movement section, but kind of we'll dig into it a little bit more from the attack perspective. So same as the movement piece, just a really good like command dash, I call it. I'd like it in terms of just like getting pressure on the opponent. But yeah, it's good for just like if you're getting pushed block out, you can kind of dash in with it and kind of keep things cooking a bit. There's really like three, or I guess maybe I consider maybe four different versions, or maybe 7 different versions that you can use coming off of the Rolling Buckler. The first is just like the slide. I feel like this is probably one I use the most often. Just in terms of, again, it has like the most combo potential. It's not bad from long distance. I've like landed it a decent amount of times, and like have been able to land assist and like some snapbacks. So yeah, you got a couple options coming out of it, right? So you got the slide, which is nice. You also got the punch, the old Nico punch. This one's unique. It has like the only sort of like audio cue about it, which I think is kind of quirky and interesting. But the Nico punch is nice. It does pop up. It gives you a little bit of like priority in terms of just like being able to spam that after. It's also positive, I'm pretty sure, on block. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure it's like really positive on block. So a lot of times if you're trying to just like frame trap or kind of keep pressure, it's a good way to just kind of sneak, a good attack to just kind of sneak in there sometimes. What I found is like a lot of players don't really see the Nico punch probably that often, especially if you're playing me. I'm usually going slide, which is a little bit less safe than the punch. So it's just a good like thing to kind of know. She's also got, I guess, 8 different outcomes off the the slide here, off the rolling buckler here, but we'll get into them. She's also got the uppercut. Sorry, that's Nico punch. She's also got the uppercut. So there's the short version of it, and then she's got the like heavier version. I used to really, for the longest time, be a big fan of the heavy version, just because it like is the heavy version. So I'm like, damage. It's like 25 by itself, and then the shorter one is 19. But I feel like in terms of priority, the shorter one, for me at least, is typically the most consistent. If like a character is like, usually I'm using it at like, I've popped them up with Commando, popped them up with Commando, done that, and then kind of get into like a Magic Series basic kind of error combo type of vibe. However, the short, I just, for whatever reason, the short, it's like you have to use it more like closely to the ground, but I feel like there's just less, they just roll it less, and I feel like it also just has a little bit more priority. So yeah, another little distinction. Just the way you do it is like either of the rolling bucklers and then heavy. So short rolling buckler, heavy, long rolling buckler, heavy. I think that's it. She's also got wall cling, which I know I talked about in the movement section, but yeah, again, she's got the slide down thing, but nothing too crazy coming out of that. You can kind of get funky if you mix in an air delta kick, but I think that's it in terms of moves. All right, that's everything. I was like, did I miss anything? Cool. All right, so next up we will get into we got special moves. Next we're talking super moves. Felicia's got, coming out of the rolling buckler. Sorry, let's go back. I mentioned like 8 different outcomes for this guy. So on top of what is considered obviously the official sort of the normal versions coming out of these, you can also do any of her supers coming out of this, which I think is a bit relevant to me. So like do that guy, you can do this guy, which has like decent potential for like mixing up on a cross under, which I still kind of would love to start exploring a bit. And then let me see, something like that. And then lastly, you've got this guy, which is probably the version of it that I use the most, just in terms of like closing ground, then doing this, then calling rogue. Just kind of sets things up a little bit more nicely. All right, so in terms of her super moves, I guess we'll start, even though I just did sand, we kind of went through all of them very quickly, but we'll start with probably her most cookie, like cut and dry version of the super. We're going to do safe falls and auto guard. All right, we'll start with the version of the super of hers that is the most kind of simple. So you've got your dancing flash guy here. This like super rolling buckler kind of thing, 44 damage. It's respectable. It is a decent little full screen punish. Typically, all 3 of her supers can kind of roughly punish from full screen in the same way. Ooh, excuse me. I'm also pretty sure that she can punish like heavy rocket punch from Sentinel. So like crouch or duck rocket punch, and then like as like the arm is coming back, she can kind of like just swoop on in and go for the kill. So you got that. Again, it's like really fast. It doesn't hit airborne, which is really interesting, but nonetheless, you can get some decent damage with it off of things like this, which he blocked there, but it crosses up. So like I probably should have just left him on not guard. So like as you can see, picked him up from the left side. So that does a lot of just like crossing up unintentionally. Like sometimes I'm just like truly crossing my fingers. Like I don't really even know what the mix is. So that's like a nice little like anti-roll, which I feel like people are always like complaining or knocking Felicia for, where it's like, oh, well, they can just roll all of her stuff. Well, it's like the second that you do, she kind of has like an anti-roll tool, which I haven't seen anybody fully be able to kind of shut down or combat against to date. So to me, it's like kind of worth keeping in the old repertoire. So, but yeah, safe falls off here. If they don't roll, you're getting like some decent damage like this. It's also just a nice super in terms of like DHCing out of. especially for a team like mine. Like Commando can like actually combo off of her final hit. She's got one of those supers where the flashing screen is up for a little bit, even after the last hit. So you can kind of get some, max damage there, which is really nice. And it's also in terms of just like DHCing into, you got me to do that. In terms of DHCing into it, that for the most part is kind of safe, depending on the opponent. But it's also solid if like the opponent's like in the air or at super jump height. She has like virtually no recovery on it if it just completely whiffs. So it's good to just kind of like use in a pinch if you know or kind of can predict that, you got like a really jump happy character or opponent. So next up we've got we'll do Kitty Litter Super, just because that's gonna be your main damage guy. So yeah, Kitty Litter Super, as you guys know, 53 damage off of like no mash. If you throw some mashing in there, 59. I feel like you can get up to like 62. I think 60, yeah, like close to 60-ish is the max. But for the most part, solid damage. If you're comboing into it, mentioned earlier, that's probably going to be like your like bread and butter. That's just a quick like 100 damage just off of a like nice like standing jump in. So definitely going to be like your main damage engine of choice here. So yeah, you also get the benefit of the damage reset glitch, right? Where so they can't roll. So that's like a nice, just like easy way to just like stack on some damage, and it kind of makes the super itself a little bit more viable in terms of DHCing out of it. I think that's mostly it for that little guy. Yeah, it has like decent priority over a weird amount of supers. It'll be like Magneto's like Tempest thing at full screen, which is like kind of rare. Sometimes like rare for Magneto to just do raw Tempest at full screen. But then there's also like it'll sometimes catch Storm's foot here if she's doing like a raw like Hailstorm from like full screen, which is a bit more common. So it's a decent super. In terms of it being safe or not, it's weird because basically Felicia is only in that like unsafe state for as long as the little kitty is on screen. But as soon as the kitty is gone, she can begin to block again. So depending on like where, it's weird. Depending on like where on the screen the kitty hits the opponent or like where you activate it, the safeness of it kind of varies. Let's see, like what's like the max? Like if I do it from like here, right? Like, yeah. So it's also an interesting one. Sometimes I'll typically, if I'm looking to DHC Felicia in, this is typically 100% of the time the super that I'm going to be using. So I guess that's the last call out for this guy. And then last but not least, we got the Super Sand here, which I think is one of the dopest supers on the team, at least, if not, dare I say, in the game. So the idea here is it's a super version of the Super Sand Splash. It does like really good chip, I guess I'll start with. So like between like her so-so air combo damage and then like landing like a chippy sand splash, super sand splash, you can honestly finish a character, right, under the right circumstances. So nice little combination to have here, especially if like you're kind of finishing an opponent off with the old kitty super. This will kind of combo into each other too, just in terms of the OTG. My favorite thing about this is that it, in terms of DHCing out, it is you keep the active frames. So a lot of times, like if you have like a character like Rogue and you're kind of getting your rush on, you can kind of stack the two supers or DHC the two supers into themselves. There you go. And then just kind of keep up the pressure. Again, like take advantage of all that chip. If it's Rogue and they're even closer or like not just as, or if you can't quite chip them out, you can kind of combo with some of Rogue's more chippy supers, like something like that. So I guess I can just show that what I just said. So like, So something like that's like sometimes like a nice little just like easy way or cheap way to kind of close out the opponent just with chip. Again, because the frames stay active, it's cool because you can also do stuff like kind of same thing, continuing your pressure from the other side. Most people don't really know to block or to make sure to, guard as they're kind of coming down, assuming that Felicia's been DHC'd out. So it's a unique property. If it was any other character, the sand would probably lose its frames, but for whatever reason, Felicia kind of keeps that property when DHCing out. Next thing here, other point here is in terms of like assists, like if both characters are ever out, you can easily just pop them up a lot of times. And then the assist will just land on the sand if the point character decides, like if they're Iron Man or Storm, that they want to like float or use a unibeam, drop some bombs, whatever it may be. That's also just a nice way to kind of ensure that you can clip out an assist. The other thing here too is in terms of just DHCing out of it, kind of same thing. Those two frames kind of stack on each other, or two supers kind of stack on each other in a really nice way, especially when you're looking to kind of punish an assist. So I think that's it for supers. I'm a big fan of the sand. I feel like people kind of give it a bit of a bad rap, but yeah, it's definitely something you'll want to be mastering if you're looking to get your Felicia on here. So now we're talking assists now here. So did a quick team change here, just so we've got access to all three of her big three assists. So I'm gonna start with, I think, like in my opinion, what the worst assist is, and then go and finish off on what the strongest assist is. So I think for me, I think this is going to be, hot topic here, hotly debated item, or, hot take as the Gen Z say it here. But I think her A assist is for me easily the worst assist. So I don't know why I put the A assist Felicia on point here, but I will swap that out. We'll go with Gray. Gray is going to be the ground assist, aka the B assist. We'll end on that one. And so I'll leave it on point here since that's my favorite. All right, so as all characters do in this game, Felicia's got 3 assists. She is blessed enough to where all 3 assists for the assist call attack, it's pretty unique. So you do get a couple of options across all 3. Universally for all 3 assists is the team hyper combo, I guess we'll start with. So regardless of the assist, you will just get the super sand splash, which is money in terms of team chemistries. I'll definitely get to that too here as we wrap up this section. But I'll have to switch back to the main squad to touch on that point. But we'll start with the A assist. So the A assist is going to be the... Actually, we'll leave it on auto. All right, so we'll start with her A assist. That's going to be her expansion assist, aka the Delta kick. I feel like it's like always argued that this is for whatever reason Felicia's like best assist, which I can't help but disagree with. I see the points that folks are making, but for me, if you're going to be an assist, you need to be able to on hit. I think bottom line, if you're an assist, regardless of what you're doing, I think on hit you should be at least positive, like. Or at least like positive enough to where like the point character doesn't have to do too much to kind of cover you and kind of save your butt, right? And I think Delta Kick is just so critically guilty of that in terms of just being very unsafe. Can't combo really like by itself at all. I get what folks say, like it's nice that it hits 3 times. Yes, that's nice. The OTG feature, right? Like I like a good OTG. That's great. But I just think that the unsafeness of it all, like on hit, is just too much. The other thing being like Felicia is just like a very light character, right? So like even especially as an assist. So if you're gonna be using Felicia and spamming an assist, which you ideally would like to be doing at a pretty decent like level of play, you want to be potentially trying to spam something that's gonna be at least safe, and if not safe, then at least just quick. And it's like slow and unsafe. And for these reasons, I can't justify putting it at number 1 or even at number 2, honestly, which is like not even a troll bait job here. But that's just like kind of where I'm at with it. I think the other thing too that kind of really seals it home for me on Delta Kick is that like you can't you can't like cancel it into any of her supers. So like that's relevant because the alpha counter for the alpha assist is delta kick. And so you can't like, see that was sand splash. So you like can't do it. And so like in terms of DHCing in and then DHCing in and like doing like a sand and punishing, which is, a viable thing. You don't really get that option either. And on top of that, you're DHCing into an attack that again is like not going to combo under most circumstances and is going to be pretty unsafe. And just really just is very, a very telegraphed, I would say, alpha counter. So I'll get off my soapbox here on the old alpha counter chronicles, but that's kind of it in a decently sized nutshell. All right, so next up here we got we will talk through the cat scratch assist represented by the old blue Felicia here. Cat scratch assist is nothing to write home about. It's like only here because of its alpha counter, which I guess I'll get to in a bit, but for the most part, it's just a single attack. It swaps the assist side, which is something. But for the most part, you can OTG, like if you really know that it's coming, but like it's like tricky for no reason. So as far as like using this on point, it's not great. I will say though that I'll give it a couple of flowers here in terms of it being spammable as like a quicker thing. Then delta kick, right? Like if you're looking to build meter, I guess it's good for that. So that's nice. And then again, just in terms of the alpha counter, for whatever reason, the alpha counter on the bubble assist or the cat scratch assist is her sand splash, which is easiest of the three to super into. And so like I think if you're some sort of a masochist Felicia that really likes to flex your alpha counter into, super muscles, that's probably the best bet just because like the frames, like the active frames for the DH or for the cancel are pretty wide. So you got that going for it, and it's not bad in terms of just like maybe potentially alpha countering in and interrupting something. You got like kind of a projectile. And so for those reasons, I'd put the cat scratch super as as number 2, but don't recommend this one either. So last but not least, we have got the man, the myth, the legend here, Felicia Sand Splash super. I think this super is easily the best super in her arsenal for a couple different reasons. In terms of like just the pure speed of it, it's really fast. I think it's like arguably for sure one of the fastest assists in the game in terms of just like how long the character is on the screen. Like I've definitely done like tests against like things like Psyblade, which is probably like the most next threatening quick assist, or most threatening quick assist. And so I think it's pretty much like faster than that even. So in terms of just being able to use the super and just like a volume per minute, or like, use the assist in terms of being able to use the assist and almost like an assist per minute kind of a vibe. Like you can get a lot of assists in, is my point here. Okay. It's like really quiet. Most folks don't expect it. It's hard to punish again because it's so quick. So I think it's just really good for that. It's a really great bait tool. People don't see it often. They know it's an assist. They assume it's going to be out for a while. It's definitely much shorter in terms of like a commando assist. So big fan of the ground super. I'm going to swap characters here actually to kind of dig into it a bit more. All right. So yeah, just kind of wrapping up the section here on assists. Just getting specifically into the ground assist here, just with like my home team here. So other thing that I like about the, I guess I'll start from the beginning. So the way that the ground assist works is it's just the same heavy version of the Sand Splash. A couple of unique things about it is that when you call it, Felicia's actually is a bit behind the point character, which is kind of interesting. So whereas like a commando is very much out front, Sand Splash is a bit far away. which I think is I used to hate, but now I've kind of gotten used to it. Just in terms of you can do some pretty cool things in terms of like a little get behind you guy. In terms of like a something like that. So yeah, it's kind of tricky in that regard. It's definitely not spammable in terms of like planning to hit people. But I think if you know you're using it and it's going to be safe, I think kind of, go for it. The other thing I like about it too, is that it is, it whenever it hits, it automatically side switches the opponent. So I guess if the opponent is ever sandwiched between it, it will side switch, I guess is what I'm saying. So as you can see, when on the same side, it just pushes the opponent back. But what I've gotten into really a lot recently is if like on like a sandwich, so like this, it actually is a double side switch. So for whatever reason, every time it lands, the point character is thrown on the opposite side of your main character, or the opponent. Yeah, the opponent is thrown on the opposite side of your point character, and so yeah. You get that. So what that opens up is just like some nice early resets, I typically will call them. So like a nice like 18 damage, Commando new to block because he's on auto, or Iron Man new to block because he's on auto. So what you'll get is like that, and then which can be like a decent like chunk of damage, right? Like if you're looking at Iron Man's health here, and there's enough of a window in there to where you can use both assists, right? So you're like hopping over, side switch, a nice like whatever 69 plus 18 damage is, just on like basic, just sort of some basic cheeky footwork. So I think that's my first point about the sand assist is that like in terms of just landing it, it's also just much safer than her other two assists. So like again, in terms of just pure spammability, like sometimes it hits twice. Sometimes it hits once. Like it's doing kind of a lot of like really funky stuff in terms of just like its potential for lockdown on block and hit. Again, just way more than those other two assists. So also just in terms of just neutral, the sand splash assist is just it's goated here, honestly. A couple other fun things that I enjoy and have been finding and hearing from like from direct messages how tricky this thing can be is like on incoming. I've got this really lovely incoming thing where like as they're coming down, I'll like call the assist. I could probably just like, yeah, let's do it now. Let me just whack Iron Man in. All right. For whatever reason, that is just like really difficult for folks to block. And it's just really, really juicy damage in the corner. So again, just Felicia's, the stand assist, just like pure potential for just like really interesting mix up in the neutral. It also hits grounded, which is really nice. Let me see. Especially for like a character like Commando, you can just really just like just pile on like just really stupid like Magic series damage, just by way of like a pretty solid OTG assist. I think that's the other thing too for me is that like I didn't really realize this until I was rocking Felicia pretty heavy, but like there aren't many just OTG hitting assists in the game, and so I think like that as well just like sets that assist apart from her other two. And then my final point is that I also love that the I don't know if I love it. Actually, I do kind of love it. That the alpha counter is actually not bad. Like if you're getting rushed down and you alpha counter into this thing in a heated freaking match, a lot of times people A aren't expecting the alpha counter and then B aren't expecting the side switch. You can get some pretty cool stuff in terms of kind of flipping the tide of the game in your favor. It also kind of tech jumps too, so even if it trades, she's at least trading and she's airborne. So there's that, and then last but not least, if I can land it, that was a rolling buckler. You can also, there you go, the little bubble's still out there. You can also DHC into it fairly easily. It's like not as easy, obviously, as like the sand DHC. But it is possible. I've done it a ton against like Sentinel, especially on like the first hit of Sentinel Force. So I think just being able to DHC into the always interesting sand super is nice, because as you know, that also kind of opens up a decent amount of mix up, right? So you DHC or you alpha counter in using the bubble guy, you hit your sand, maybe your commando. Now you've got a little bit more pressure off of like a pretty simple DHC. So in terms of a defensive option, I think like all around, like everyone, if you're playing Felicia, should just be picking the ground assist. I think that's the end of my soapbox for that one. Oh yeah, the only other thing too that I had was like for the DHC or the team hyper comboing potential. Again, as mentioned, all 3 assists for Felicia, they all have the same team hyper combo. It's actually not bad. Like if you're commando and you're looking to punish full screen, that actually isn't a bad option in terms of just sniping either an assist or even like a point character. It also does decent chip, I feel like. Yeah, the chip is still pretty good too, which is just nice to be able to access that. So overall, the assists can be they're not top tier by any means, but they're not nearly as, or at least Sand Splash isn't nearly as bad as folks tend to regard it. We'll kick it off with team chemistry. Yeah, team chemistry. We can just start with this squad. I think for the most part, if you're rocking Felicia, we kind of spoke to a lot of the weaknesses earlier, right? I think one of the biggest ones for her is she doesn't really have like a decent anti-air, right? You got this thing, which is you've also got even like the kitty super is decent just because it does cover like a nice like chunk of the airspace right above her. So if the opponent is there and you kind of like have a nice read, you can kind of get a decent punish, even with this like a random YOLO kitty super. But again, none of these anti-airs are particularly reliable. So I think to kind of supplement that and avoid a situation where you're just needlessly getting rushed down, highly recommend a solid anti-air assist. I think if you've ever seen this channel, you know I'm rocking Commando for that anti-air assist, right? This is useful for a couple of reasons. Again, as with most anti-airs, it will keep you from getting rushed down as easily as you would if you did not have it. But I think it also just does a great job of just adding to Felicia's pressure game. She's got that like cheeky instant overhead off of the Commando assist. Commando's assist also does a really great job of OTGing, which I would say is, in terms of team chemistry, another property that you're going to want to be looking for here. Again, like Felicia's going to be really getting cheeky in terms of trying to like land like this thing. I think this thing into like Commando assist is just like so money for so many reasons. And there's just like so many different ways to convert, pretty just like simple damage. Again, just off of like a grounded magic series. I think like if you're going to be launching with Felicia, you ideally want to be launching from like that state, where you're picking them up off of an OTG versus trying to land something like which like even if that did work, you're looking at like 38 damage. So there's also that which can kind of work, but again, it's like 37. But it's doable in terms of using the super with an assist that has the ability to OTG. So yeah, I think that's kind of mostly it. Like you want to make sure you just have someone that can kind of cover that ground. Again, because Felicia isn't that threatening at super jump height, having the Commando assist just adds in some nice guaranteed damage between combos. There's also, I think, like there's a way to like combo. Trying to like combo Kitty with like that. There's a way to. Let me see. Morrigan's like Morrigan's anti-air does a really great job of like I can't get it like carrying the opponent like right into like there it is into I was like I know I'm gonna get it if I just take one beat, like blasting the opponent into kitties. So that's kind of another thing to kind of look for in terms of an anti-air when you're rocking Felicia, but definitely highly recommend having one. She's even got like that little uppercut, which is a decent anti-air, but again, nothing that's just like really like guaranteed. Especially when you're thinking about some of those more high priority like jumping heavies, right? I'm thinking like Cable's boot is just like she's just free to that. It's so frustrating. In terms of the other assist, I typically will recommend either a throw. Reason being, the old throw assists do a great job of just opening up the opponent in a way that Felicia kind of struggles with. Again, she has a command throw, but it's like a very average, and I think I'm at neutral or maybe even negative on hit here. It's a pretty average command throw, and just you really just don't get much off of it. It's also just clunky to use. It's harder to mix up in strings, where something like a rogue assist just opens itself up really nicely to kind of the pace that you want to be rushing down with Felicia at. So in Rogue's case, Rogue's throw is amazing. It's just like really just great damage, 61 damage off an assist throw. 67. If you're mashing and then you add that to 8, you're looking at like, I don't know the math, 75 or something damage here just off of a really basic Rogue throw. There's also just a ton of tech too if you just really want to get funky and start labbing it out, where you can kind of like add even more damage on top of the little 8. So that's like what, 87 or something like that. In terms of the DHC potential, this is probably one of my favorite ones here. I like just learned this new like touch of death combo here off of the Rogue throw. I'm gonna see if I can land it. This guy. There we go. I think this is it, yeah. So yeah, again, like a throw can really open up some stuff. So the throw assist, I think, is definitely a clear mandate in terms of what you're looking to add to a Felicia kit. And then projectiles as well, I would say. I'll switch to a projectile-based character here. Last point here in terms of assists, I think just if you're not rocking a throw or an anti-air, I would say like that other slot could probably easily go to a projectile assist. Again, Felicia kind of really thrives in this sort of like grounded neutral. So if there's a nice projectile assist to kind of give her some backup, that's always really, really swell. Pick Felicia, or I picked BB Hood just for the that does combo if you get it tight enough. Just for like the thematic here with all the Darkstalker stuff. But I think like other ones include like Mega Man. His like 2-hitter is like really nice supporting assists in that regard. And then there's also beams, of course. I guess like same or kind of same vibe as in terms of like a traditional projectile. Having that beam also just does a great job of like helping control some of that neutral. Wow, it's like my first time ever doing that combo. Right again. Damn. I wonder if I can like Woo. Felicia versus the gods here. So we'll kind of wrap that up. This section I'll make relatively quick, just in terms of the big four, we'll call it. I think for the most part, if you're playing against the gods, you're looking to kind of do virtually different things across the board. Biggest things of note is Sand can punish Cable's standing hyper viper beam, which isn't bad. She also can punish, obviously, standing. Oh, actually, not obviously. Maybe like his standing regular viper beam. You don't really see it much, but it is like a nice like Easter egg to kind of keep in mind. I think also in terms of playing all of the gods, my biggest tip is probably just don't be afraid of rolling, especially for some of those more keep away friendly ones. Just kind of got to commit in some cases, and just really be willing to go for it. Storm is probably the most difficult, I think, of all of them, just because of her ability to just kind of like fly and keep away. If you have an anti-air assist, that definitely will help kind of negate a little bit of that. But it's also like if you're ever down to like a one-on-one situation, you really kind of got to get scrappy. It is nice that Storm doesn't have as much health. I think she's like one tier below whatever the standard is. So like you can like land a decent hit. you can get 100 damage, right? However, that's just the tricky part is like nailing and getting, locking a storm down, right? But definitely not impossible. Um, Committing to like rolls on like a landing storm definitely kind of helps, like rolling like slide, like the kick. Um, but for the most part, you're if you're playing against Storm with Felicia, you're kind of playing her game. Um, Chatted through cable. I'm trying to think if there's any other like specific cable tips as I'm looking at him. Yeah, be prepared to block a lot. Uh, Using this to get under stuff is kind of cheeky too sometimes, just because of like it does have a decent amount of invincibility frames and like low profiles a bit. So not being afraid to use that in a clutch against cable is definitely something else I'd recommend. I'm gonna bring up Magneto and Sentinel just so I'm looking at them before I dive into my tips for Magneto and Sentinel. All right, yeah. So rounding out the god tier tips here. Yeah, so we'll do Magneto first. Magneto also tends to be really tricky, just in terms of like I oftentimes want to spam just kind of short sand, which I do recommend, just because like a lot of Magnetos do just like to dive right in or just like rush right in, but like as I'm sure you won't surprise anybody, Magneto can easily punish like jump and punish this and has, and he's even punished this just on like whiff and like dashing in and like punishing like the recovery frames on it. So Magneto is tricky. If you're gonna be facing off against Magneto, I think what I found is like typically the safest place to be throwing buttons is like this kind of like neutral jumpish height. Like her normals kind of trade decently well with like a floaty Magneto. Neutral jumping that thing is usually also not a bad tip. Trying to have him bait out either like a hypergraph or like an assist punish with like either of his supers, like a Tempest or a Shockwave. This will go through. We'll beat startup on both of those in a decent amount of cases, but then like this will actually go through Tempest at full screen. I think I mentioned that earlier, but it won't beat Shockwave for whatever reason. This will also just beat Tempest at full screen, so she's got some decent options for some of the more keep away friendly Magnetos, which I know is like probably pretty rare. And then Sentinel. And then last but not least, we got Sentinel here. So with old Senti, he is obviously of all the gods, the toughest for Felicia to just take down, as with most characters, just from like a pure damage perspective. But she can do things like that, right? Like that's like a decent amount of like damage just off of like kind of a random jump in. Sand does beat Sentinel Force clean. So if you get used to it, or if the opponent gets like really lazy with just spamming Sentinel Force, there are a decent amount of cases where you can just like counter, even after like clearly seeing the flash, and just get like some pretty so damage there when giving it Sentinel. But this is also a super, so if you got the bar for it and you got like, let's say Iron Man on reserve, something like this into Proton Cannon is like money, right? The other thing too is that there is the Sentinel Infinite. I don't do it that often in match unless I'm like really trying to flex, which is almost like never worth going to that extreme. But it is there if you need it. And then I think the only other thing that I think is noteworthy is that like when looking at assists, Rogue and Felicia have this really interesting kind of chemistry where I can combo. Not that. Where I can combo this into Kitty Litter super randomly for again like pretty decent like damage. Off of like a combo. I wonder if I can do like a. Let me see. Is this it? There we go. So like off of a longer combo like that, that's like again just a quick 100 damage. Fun little stuff there in terms of just like thinking outside the box with a really quirky character in Felicia here. So I think that's it. Thanks for watching, I guess. Yeah, if you guys got any questions or anything that was explained here that wasn't clear, or anything you maybe like to see a deep dive into. There's definitely a lot of tech here, worth exploring in maybe a potentially longer video. So yeah, just let me know. Happy to dig in anywhere, answer any questions in the comment section. But thanks for everyone who's subscribed and been watching and supporting your boys' little tiny stream dream here. So thanks for stopping by, guys. You're all great, and yeah, I will catch you guys next time. See ya.